Welcome to the Riding in the Weeds podcast, where we tackle life's inevitable challenges, from navigating mountain bike trails to overcoming business hurdles and forging deeper connections with pets and people. It's easy to find yourself tangled in the weeds, but we're here to help with insights and strategies that'll get you out of the weeds. Our goal is to boost your performance in both sports and everyday life by sharing essential skills that we've learnt along the way. Through tales of our entrepreneurship journey, thrilling biking adventures, and fostering meaningful relationships, your hosts, Natasha, Lockey, and Ginny, Branden, will guide you on a journey that's not only enjoyable, but also inspiring. Join us to gain confidence that you need to navigate the trails of life. Hello and welcome to 2025. Crazy. If you're anything like me, about halfway through the old year, you start thinking you're in the new year. So now at least I've just caught up with the date that I think I'm having. We are episode 74, bringing us into this new year. And by this point, Ginny and I should be back on track after our little blip there over the last few weeks. I've been on the road and going through a crazy roller coaster. And Ginny's been doing her thing too. Life, I think.
On my own roller coaster.
Right. So we thought we would take the opportunity of this episode to talk a little bit about New Year's. We did this last year. We're doing it this year. And our focus today is on how can we adjust our mindset so that we are looking at this new cycle and what can we gain? What can we improve on? Really evaluating that whole concept of where are you today versus where you were 365 days ago. Let's think about what went great. And then from there, how can we make it even more awesome going forward? So I am Natasha Lockey. I am a performance, life, and mountain bike coach. And I am all about helping you step into the adventure that you want to create in your life. We've also got Ginny with us, as always, with her amazing perspectives. She is an animal communicator and energy healer for you and your pets, and has the most incredible perspectives, not just from a human point of view, but also from that animal perspective. So, without further ado, let's get started and dive right on in. Ginny, how you feeling about 2025?
Yeah, I can't believe it's already here at this point. I am having trouble wrapping my head around that. It feels like a lot of 2024 ended up being a blur, and I'm sure you can relate to that too. I know there were a lot of wild energy swings in 2024, and just things did not feel like they went as smoothly as I would have hoped. But I probably say that every year, I think, if I'm being honest with myself.
I think honestly the energies over the last few years have just been getting wilder and wilder. We have transitioned into a whole new energetic system. We've had a lot of lasts in the astrological world. This is the last time that this will happen in your lifetime. And there's been a lot of shifts that I think are quite significant. We're in the Age of Aquarius now, I believe, and I've read this crazy book that it was a fiction book. It was talking about things that were going to happen in the Age of Aquarius, and I started looking around and going, like this is actually where we are. Our mindsets are changing, and we are being pushed to really evaluate. We've got two roads to go down. We can go into the whole concept of the New World Order and becoming widgets in this system and being part of the asleep. Or we can move into that whole concept of light bodies ascending and really having power and control and accepting that we really are as powerful as we are. The last thing I'll say on this is somebody sent me the other day a little Instagram reel, and I'll have to send it to you, Ginny. And I'll post it as well in our Substack, which we'll talk about later. But it was basically like, what do you do with a bunch of gods to make them not believe that they are gods? And if you look at the last century of the world, it really actually adds up that there has been a lot of outside forces working to make us believe that we are not powerful. Because if you're dealing with a bunch of sovereign entities that think that they can manifest whatever they desire, how do you control that? Right? So as we step out of the systems that have been so prevalent and into this whole new world, the technology is insane. I saw a thing with flying cars yesterday. Like, we are literally in every sci-fi movie, hopefully the good ones, not the bad ones, but it's all very real and possible. How do we move
Yeah.
forward in that?
Yeah. And I think that really the primary thing that comes up for me that is most important is that we are very grounded in the things that support our own well-being, and that we are working through our challenges, we're working through our mental baggage, if you will, and that we are reaching for those tools, because it is a wild ride right now energetically, and things are shifting that have not ever really been this way before. We've never had this combination of technology. We've never had a lot of things in the world before. And so what are we doing to make sure that we have the tools and resources individually? It can sound so cliche sometimes to say, be the change you wish to see in the world, but it really does boil back all the way down to how are you managing your own personal energy. If you are continually being rocked by whatever's happening in your world, whether that's cosmic energetics or that's as simple as the people around you heavily impacting how you feel, how your mood is, and how your mental state is, then life is gonna be really hard. It's gonna be like riding that class 5 rapid, and it's never gonna stop. And so that's where finding our own center becomes paramount. And I think that's what I want to take into 2025 is looking at how can I continue to increase my skills in doing that? How can I be kinder to myself? How can I give myself more grace? How can I allow myself to have the process that I'm having and not make it wrong, so that I can have the growth without resisting my own growth and holding myself back because of that resistance? What can I do to promote that? I'm still knee deep in the middle of mindfulness redesign. We've only been talking about this for 3 months, I feel like. It's a big book. It's a lot to digest, but I keep sending Tosh screenshots because the quotes in there are just so profound. And one of the ones that really hit me hard recently, we were laughing before we started, is that we anchor our self-worth in the least performing area of our lives. So if you look across your life at the different facets, so your job or your business, your family life, your relationships, maybe your children or your friendships or sports you're passionate about, or whatever it is that you do in your life, the area that you are struggling the hardest is the one you're going to judge yourself by. And when I read that, I was like, oh, dang.
Well, and
like,
when
ouch.
you read it to me just now, like Ginny and I are part of a somatic writing group this week, and this morning there were 3 prompts. One of them was I refuse to love my body because my deepest fear is... And of course, Ginny knows exactly where I'm at. And if you've been listening to this podcast, you probably know that too. And Ginny's like, I refuse to be in my body because... And we could have predicted exactly what the other person was going to write from based on what we know of each other, because that's exactly what we do. And that's based on our experience. We do exactly that. And it doesn't really serve us. One of the other things that came up for me while you were talking, Ginny, was I had a comment on one of my Facebook posts, and it was something about where I am in the world right now. And somebody had commented, and I wasn't particularly surprised that this comment came from this person, but she asked what went wrong. And I found it really interesting and not surprising that that was her comment. It was just interesting because I'm like, what do you mean what went wrong? What went right was that there was an opportunity to knock another thing off my bucket list. And I think if I look back at my life, as I said last time, I'm going to write a book because I have lived so many lifetimes and I have done so many different things in the 46 years that I've been on this planet that, like, why not do a completely 180 instead of sitting in palm trees? We got to the border the other day and I was like, what happened to Mexico? Why is it so cold in Mexico? We're literally crossing the border back into Canada on the same date that we should have been crossing into Mexico. And it's been a lot of ups and downs, but now we're here. I just keep looking at Ian and being like, would you have ever imagined, like this time last year, where we would be now? In your wildest dreams? And the answer is absolutely not.
Yeah.
And it's not a question of what went wrong. It's a question of what's the adventure that we're on now.
Yeah. And I think I've had people who have said things like that to me when they are viewing from the outside what appears to be a very surprising decision based on their limited amount of knowledge of me. And I think what's important to remember about that is they don't have the perspective on the entire picture. Like when you told me this is what was happening and where you were going to end up, I was like, yeah, sure, that makes total sense. It wasn't surprising to me because I also know you well enough now that pivoting is normal in your life. And there are a lot of people out there though that can't handle that kind of life, for lack of a better word, and that's fine. But I see in that comment the sort of projection of the insecurity that the only way that person could imagine making a decision like that was if something did go terribly wrong.
Yeah.
And I say that with compassion because that's just their perspective, and awesome for them if that's the only reason that they would make a decision like that. And the only reason they would have to is if because something got so upheaved in their life. Hey, I love the fact that your life is that stable and that grounded. That's awesome. But it's not true for everybody. And just because a decision like that has been made doesn't mean it's bad. And I think that's part of when you're looking at goals and resolutions. You've got to be able to do what's right for you in the moment. And that may not look like what everybody else is doing. And you have to be able to know yourself well enough to know when it is the right decision, despite how wildly outlandish it might look to the outside world. I mean, you now have been snowbirding basically to Mexico for a couple years. That was your dream. It was something you really wanted to do. I don't blame you for wanting to be warm in the winter. I love the idea as well. So why would you turn that down and stay in the cold for a whole season? It doesn't outwardly make sense to people that don't know you well enough, and that's fine. It doesn't have to make sense to anybody else. Well, and that's part of being able to know where your goals are and to know like what is important and what do you value at that point.
Yeah, and it happens. There's so many different examples, and it's kind of like when you look at the successful business person who suddenly like sets everything on fire. You have absolutely no idea of all the pieces that are also in play. And so often people get exactly what they thought they wanted and realize that it actually isn't what they wanted. That's not what happened to me. I have spent the last 5 weeks wondering what on earth I was doing and being homesick for Mexico and completely unsure, but also trusting. There's a book by Michael J. Singer that I've talked about before, The Art of Surrender, and his whole book, totally worth reading. He talks about when life offered him an opportunity that made no sense. He got into the habit of saying yes, even when he wanted to say no. That person moved into his house and he didn't really want them there. And instead of being like, hey, get out, he's like, okay, life put this here for me for a reason. And every single time he said yes to something that was 100% not what he thought he was going towards, the pieces that fell into place, hiring that person that made no sense, turned out being the only thing that got them through the next bit. And this is another podcast for another day, but I said that to my dad yesterday when I was talking to him. He was talking about the regrets he had in his life and the disappointments and the things he had done wrong. And I was like, Dad, what if everything you think you did wrong was actually exactly what was needed to happen for you and for those around you in order to give them the tools for the things that were going to come up in their life? What if we looked at everything that we do under that microscope, as opposed to, I need to fix this because this is an underperforming area of my life and I regret not having done XYZ. How about we look at it under, okay, these things that I have done have given myself and others the tools in order to face whatever it is going forward. So now how do I take all of those lessons and all of those experiences and continue to evolve and then continue to improve? Like, growth and evolution over a lifetime is really what we should all be striving for. And you can't get that without the missteps, without the mistakes. If we're constantly saying no, then we never know what might have happened if we'd said, yeah, okay, sure, I'm going to move to a 400-acre farm in the middle of nowhere in a place where it could possibly be minus 40 for a month. Why not?
I think this brings us right into the part of the conversation, because there are a lot of things that are out of our control, like legitimately. And in the book Mindfulness Redesigned, Amit Sood refers to that as the X factor. And so he has an equation for being able to achieve things. The outcome is the product of your intention plus your effort plus your X factor. And I think that's one of the mistakes we make when we start talking about goals and setting goals and whether or not we achieve the goal, is we forget that we have to factor in the unknowns. And that can be in our favor. That can be meeting someone who catapults us into another level, whether that's exposure or whether that's an investor or the right trainer at the right time. But the X factor can also work against you. It could be an injury. It could be being stuck in traffic. It could be any number of things that could prevent or reduce your achievement of the goal. And his point in reminding us of that is that you need to be able to focus on the effort that you have put in and what you have gained along the way, rather than the specific outcome. Because when you only focus on the specific outcome, you're bound to fail, because it's never going to work out exactly as we think it will when we're making all the grand plans and setting all the goals. So you've got to be able to focus on the small successes and the processes that you have perfected along the way, whether you're talking about riding bikes or riding horses, or whether you're talking about business processes that you're building, or relationship processes or skills. Achieving those processes and having them feel natural and good and easy, that is achieving the goal. And that is being able to say, yes, I have done this and I can check this off on my list. But it's not saying that, well, I can now say that I've lost X number of pounds, or I've put in X number of hours doing something. Because when you're focusing on trying to lose weight, or when you're focusing on something specific like that, that doesn't factor in the X factor along with all of the experience that you're getting in the middle. And so if you can find a way to frame the goal around the experience and the effort that you're putting in, That'll make your goals not only achievable, but they'll also feel a lot better to work on because you'll be focusing on the right things.
Well, and to add to that, I think having those goals is really important. Having the direction that you're going in, and then having your North Star. But then you have daily things that you're going to achieve. And there's a book called 10X Your Life that really talks about what are the 3 things today that you're going to do to work towards that goal. Because the truth of the matter is wherever you end up is not going to look anything like you thought it was going to when you set that goal, right? You have no idea what is going to happen to you in the course of that journey. You look at every single movie, every single hero's journey that we watch and that we experience. It's like the person changes, and what they want at the end is completely different to what they started out thinking they want. Look at every cheesy Christmas holiday movie. The person doesn't go on whatever they're going on in order to find the love of their lives, but yet look at what happens. They're a successful business person, and now they've decided to move to the smallest town in Christmasville, and life looks completely different, yet it was everything that they ever wanted. And that is the truth of our lives when we focus on the things that we celebrate, those small successes and processes, not on the outcome. Because 100%, if you judge everything on the outcome you thought was going to happen, you're going to fail every single time. I want to start doing yoga because I want to be able to put my head behind my neck. Truth is, you might do yoga an hour a day for the next 30 years and never be able to do a headstand or a shoulder stand, or that thing where you tie your legs up in lotus position and you're able to sit there. There's a good chance that you're never going to reach whatever level of perfection you're judging by. However, if you do yoga every day, or you meditate every day, or you do any of these things every day, you take a step towards that goal, you are going to win. You are going to succeed. You are going to find something you never expected along the way.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important thing that I want to take into 2025 is being able to look at the amount of effort that I put in and the quality of the processes that I'm gaining along the way. I think we inadvertently did this in 2024. If you look back at some of our goal reviews, we ended up with goals that were more oriented on the processes than the outcome. And that to me is one of the big keys of being able to feel successful is when you're focused on the processes and how the quality of the process that you're able to produce, then you will have success faster than if you're only worried about the outcome.
In this book, 10X Your Life, they really talk about the fact that you will not have success unless you celebrate your daily wins. You will never feel successful. Even when you get to that thing you thought you wanted. I have another coach I follow, and she's like, there is a very small window between you achieving the goal and then you wanting more. And you really need to ground into that fraction of a moment where you're like, oh, I did it, before you instantly move into, now what am I going to do next? It is such a skill to be able to make celebration a part of your world and a part of your process. The process is that once you do the thing you said you were going to do, you then celebrate you did it, and then you move on to the next thing. And it allows you to go bigger and bigger and bigger. And it allows you that space to go, look at what I've done, look at what I'm going to do. And it removes the regrets and the disappointments and all of that stuff. Back to my dad. He's 80 years of age and he's sitting there regretting all of these things. And I said to him, like, Dad, you're amazing. Everything you've done is amazing. You've helped so many people. You've done so many very cool things. What if you could look at that instead of spending the remainder of the time you have left in regret and sadness? It's not the goal. The goal is to feel like we enjoyed the journey, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. I believe that as humans, we are souls in a human body. And so we are here to have experiences. And so, can we focus on being in an experience rather than worrying about the outcome of the experience? Can we focus on being in the experience and find ways to connect to our quote goals through the experience rather than the outcome? And I think that's how we find the path to feeling better about goals, to feeling like we're successful at goals, is relish that experience. Rather than saying, what goals do I want to achieve in 2025? Maybe it should be, what experiences do I want to have in 2025? Because that can still easily be framed around whatever your subject matter is. If you want to have an experience with your pets, how do you need to take steps to be able to do that? Do you want to train your pet to do something? What is the experience you want to have that is on the other side of that training? Do you want to be able to run with your dog? Do you want to be able to go places with your dog? Do you want to be able to play certain games with your cat or do certain things with your cat? Do you want to be able to ride your horse out on trails, or do you want to be able to have a deeper relationship? What's the experience that you want to have that's going to allow you to take those baby steps every single day that'll get you there so that you can check that thing off the list? But if we are too busy worrying about the specific outcome, it's not going to look like we think it is from here when we get there. It won't look the same. And then in addition to that, we're going to be moving the bar because it's not going to look exactly like we think it will from here. And so by the time we get there, it's different already. And now our goal is twisted up and convoluted a little more. And we're dissatisfied. We're frustrated. We resent the goal. We don't want to do the thing anymore. We have trouble getting motivated again. And it all falls apart, sometimes by January 3rd. But hopefully with a reframe and a little bit of a redirect, we can be a little bit more thoughtful about what we're looking to do and what we want to achieve from a mindset of experience and a focus on those processes that we're looking to perfect. So the experience is the outcome of that, but the process is how we want to have that experience, how we want to do the thing along the way.
Yeah, and I say the exact same thing with mountain biking. It's what is the experience you want to have? You want to have fun on your mountain bike. That's the experience. None of the rest of it matters. You don't need to compare yourself. You don't need to be fit enough. You don't need to be able to do any crazy stunts or features. Like, what is the experience that you want to have? And you will always have an amazing time, right? When you're out doing the thing.
Yeah. That's where the focus and intention become so important.
You're lost and you're floundering around. So I was telling Ginny before we jumped on that I have this crazy concept of people that are going up for re-election or going up for election and them coming in and saying, I really liked what this last person did in the last 4 years or whatever their term was. And we're going to focus on making that better and improving on that. And these are places where I feel that we could gain from focusing on as well. And what if that was how we looked at this whole new year? But what if we said, okay, what went great last year? And how can I continue that beautiful projection or that direction that I have in those areas? I started working out more. How can I gain more in those areas? What can I do? 80% of the time I ate great. Is there something that I could do that will give me that next level of whatever it is that you're focused on? And then where are the areas that we could really gain more? Not the areas that we're underperforming in, but where are areas that because we were focused on these things, we didn't have time to focus on this. But now we've got our exercise routine in check. We've got our relationship with our pet in check. Our relationship with our partner is looking really good. Maybe work isn't as great as we'd like it to be. So what can I do to gain in the areas where I feel like I didn't have time to focus on because I was focusing on those other areas? There's nothing wrong with that. But as we evolve, we're able to start to put some things into more of a streamline. We don't have to focus as much on them anymore, which gives us room and space to focus on other stuff. And this isn't a case of I was underperforming in this area. I hate myself and don't want to spend time in my body, so therefore I need to fix that. No. How can we add to? How can we improve the experience? I have a relationship with my husband. What can I do to make that relationship even better than it already is? As opposed to, these are the things that are wrong in my relationship, and therefore I'm going to do XYZ in order to fix whatever it is that I believe is wrong. Because now we're broken. Now that negative voice in our head is chirping away, and there is no way that you're going to move into a positive space with negative chatter.
Yeah. And I think what's important to remember is that when we are working on something, when we have a lot of focus and a lot of attention around a goal or a idea that we are working with, in the beginning, it will take a lot of energy. It will feel like you have to think about it and concentrate on it so hard in order to get any little result. And it feels exhausting. I have talked about that before with horses, that in the beginning it felt exhausting to have to think about being, quote, on all the time when I'm around them, that every little thing I did was having an impact. But what happens is eventually your nervous system gets used to it, your body gets used to it, and you start to expand your capacity. It's a lot like learning to drive the car. When you first get in a car, if you've never driven a car before, even a bike, like there's multiple pedals, there's multiple levers, there's wheels or handlebars, there's all sorts of different things you have to do. You got to worry about mirrors, you got to worry about what's around you. It's overwhelming in the beginning. And now I get in a car and I don't think twice about any of that. I don't worry about it. I can even go get in a different car and still drive. I might fumble the shifter. We were laughing because Ed's been in a couple different work trucks, and then I have my brand new truck. And frequently when we get in, he's groping for the shifter because it's in a different place in all of the vehicles that he drives. So yeah, sometimes that happens, but you still never go back to the way it was in the beginning when it did take a lot of energy. And it's important to remember that when you're working with these kinds of experiences, that in the beginning, the experience is going to take a lot of energy and effort. So you need to remember that that means that you may not have as much capacity in other areas of your life, and give yourself grace around that. And you may even find out you have to back down on some of your goals or some of your ideas as you're working with things, because other things change. Yeah. We all only have a certain amount of capacity in our lives at any given time. It changes with the seasons. It fluctuates a little bit. That's fine. But we have to respect wherever our capacity is at the moment. And so sometimes we're going to need to adapt that, and we're going to need to say, okay, that experience, that goal, whatever, needs to sit on the side for a little while I focus on these things. And when we can work through stuff that way, it gives us a lot more flexibility and a lot more grace and freedom to be able to achieve things with more ease, so that they get to be easy faster.
Yeah, absolutely. On my own personal experience that relates to that is, over the last little while, if I get up too early in the morning, I end up with a migraine in the afternoon. It's pretty much guaranteed at this point. And I have wanted to push through. I have wanted to use my willpower. I can get up earlier. I can do things. Yeah, you totally can. The problem is I don't then get to do other things. And just understanding and giving ourselves grace, everything you just said, being able to really look at what's going on, listen to your body, take a moment to actually come in and ask, is this right for me at this time? Is so important. And then how can I, within the space that I'm in, with the resources I have, with the capacity I have, where I am right at this moment in time, How do I move into that next space? I'm not broken. Nothing needs to be fixed. How do I achieve the things that I want to achieve within the capacity without going backwards because I've overdone it? I've pushed too hard. So from me, the last thing I really want to say to this is just remembering that we want to keep moving forward. We're not trying to fix anything that's broken. There's nothing wrong with how we did anything in the past. That's our journey. You needed all of those tools and all of those experiences and all of those missteps and all of those successes in order to give you what you need in order to move into whatever amazing thing is coming next. And when we say yes to that as our mindset, we open ourselves up to incredible experiences. If we stay limited, then we will continue to be limited and we will allow people to put limits on us. When we're here, we get to move forward. The most important relationship we have is with ourselves. And it's the one that we get the least help on, but it's also the one that society directs us away from at every single turn that it can. So what can we do to redirect back to that constant questioning of, is this in the best interest of my growth over a lifetime, my growth and evolution over a lifetime? Is this going to move me into where I'm going?
Yeah. I think the thing is, we're all going to encounter things in our life that are hard, that are potentially painful, whether that's physically or emotionally, that maybe are not very nice. And how we continue to move through is really what's going to matter. And knowing that those experiences are going to give us bits of information that are going to help us eventually. It may take a while. Healing is not a linear journey. It's going to take whatever time it takes to get through that, and that's fine. So if you've had hard experiences and you are struggling, even if it's working on goals that you really do want to achieve, just giving yourself grace around that and knowing that the lessons are going to be there eventually if you look for them. And if you don't want to, there's also some validity in that too. Continuing to find the ways that we can focus on perfecting the processes for ourselves and focusing on the experiences rather than just the goal of the outcome. That will help bring us back into track when we have those hard things that we have to do. Because that happens to all of us. It's part of life. It's part of the human experience. And so that's really the nicest way to be gentle with ourselves so that we can continue to make progress, whatever that looks like. That may be very, very tiny steps some days, and other days it may feel like you're going backwards, but you probably aren't because you're always building on the experiences that you have had prior. So even though it may feel like it's unraveling, you still have that collection of experiences that you're continuing to create a stronger and stronger foundation from. So you'll never really go backwards.
Yeah.
But if you're focusing on the processes and the effort that you're putting in, then the outcome won't matter as much.
Yeah. And it's much like the grieving process, right? You will never be the same after whatever the loss was that you suffered. However, over time, the scar will heal and you will move forward. And that's the healing journey that we are going on. And eventually you'll look back and be like, wow, that thing that I thought was never going to heal and I was never going to move through, I'm now in a completely different space. It could be something that's very quick and it can be something that comes up over and over, but each time it comes up, maybe it's a little bit easier. Maybe you're able to manage it a bit better. And I can tell you from my own experience that as soon as you shine the light on it, then it enables you to move through and create space for it so much faster. There was something that I was dealing with recently, and I was like, oh, this is really bothering me. And I got really honest about how I felt about it. And in the last week, even, definitely the last month, it's still there. But its intensity has gone from a 20 out of 10 to maybe a 3 out of 10. On my business, I've started to be able to very effortlessly write the emails that say, yeah, we don't offer that service anymore. And there's things I'm noticing that I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that right now because the energy is gone. It's magical.
Yeah. And I think that's the final thing that I would say is if you are encountering resistance, it's worth digging underneath to find out where that's coming from. Because it's probably coming from something else. Maybe something that's entirely unrelated externally, but yet somewhere in your subconscious, there's a connection that's being made. And that's what's holding you back from achieving whatever it is you say outwardly that you want to achieve.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's kind of magical how as soon as you turn around and you look that tiger in the face, it's like, oh. And there was some stuff I was going through that I realized I'm like, I feel like this is horrible. I don't want to admit that this is what I'm doing because this is awful. And then as soon as I actually said it out loud and admitted that this is how I felt about something, I was like, oh, that is horrible. That's okay. It's also completely valid. So I'm going to be okay with feeling that way. And it dissipated. So to really wrap this up, Happy New Year. We're not about resolutions over here at Riding in the Weeds because that will get you stuck in the weeds faster than anything you can imagine. We are not fixing anything that is broken. All we are doing is improving upon the awesomeness that we are and knowing that absolutely everything that you have experienced, every success, every failure, every misstep has been getting you to exactly where you are so that you are in the perfect position to say yes to whatever life is bringing you. So instead of sitting down and writing out a whole lot of ways that you're going to lose this habit, change this thing, lose the weight, get a better diet, whatever it is, let's change that language. What are you going to gain this year? What are you going to do that is going to improve upon all of the things that you've already done? And knowing what is your North Star? How are we going to continue to move towards it? That's all I've got. Got anything to finish up with there, Ginny?
No, that was beautiful. I love it.
Thank you. All right, so I am Natasha Lockey. I am a performance, life, and mountain bike coach coming to you from the snowy north of British Columbia for the next little while. And if you're wanting to reach out to me, you can find me, Betty at Betty Go Hard on Instagram. You can find me, Natasha Lockey, on Facebook. That's where I hang out the most these days. And LinkedIn, Natasha Lockey. I will be making my presence known there a lot more. And I'm going to let Ginny talk about Substack and what's going on there. Personally, we're both making a bit of a intention to be more present, but also the podcast is changing platforms as well. So, Ginny, tell us about you and what's going on with Substack and all of the stuff that's coming up.
Yeah, so I am Ginny Branden. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. You can find me on the web at soulpetconnections.com and mostly right now on Substack, Instagram, and also on Facebook and YouTube under the same handle. As Tosh said, we are excited to be starting the new year, shifting gears a little bit and dropping the podcast primarily on Substack, which will be pushed out to other platforms. So if you do listen to us on another platform, have no fear, you will still be able to find us there. But the advantage to Substack is that we're going to be offering a lot more extras and special things. So be sure to head over to our Substack. It's just Riding in the Weeds, just like everything else. You'll be able to find us there, and we will start taking advantage of the plethora of opportunities that Substack has to offer. You will also be able to subscribe and support the podcast monetarily. We're going to have some different options for you. If you would like to support our work and or receive special bonuses, that will be available. So keep an eye out as we continue to get this solidified, and looking forward to all the exciting things that are to come. So be sure you head over there and subscribe to the podcast there, as well as leave likes and comments. We would love to hear from you. So we appreciate you being on this ride with us for the last couple years now, and welcome to 2025.
Yeah, welcome to 2025. Let's see what kind of wild ride we get to go on this year. It's not fun if you're not having a wild ride. Have a fabulous day. Enjoy the New Year's, and we will see you in the future.